So my name is Ryan Stunkel. I'm a sound designer and music composer. I graduated in 2014 from Full Sail from RA, Recording Arts. And yeah, I do sound design and music for video games. And I run a company called Blip Sounds, where I do sounds and music for video games.
Nice. That's so awesome. So did you always want to be a sound designer? What led to this?
I don't know if anybody really grows up wanting to be a sound designer as it sounds bad, but I think that most people, I mean, music, I started with music to answer the question, but I think that music usually comes first just because it's such an accessible and broad, enjoyable experience for a broader audience. But sound design is you don't even know it's a thing until somebody tells you it exists. And then they ruin films and games for you forever. But I guess with sound design, I kind of just tried it. I was pretty good at it, and then I kept doing it. So I wish I had something more interesting to say about it, but it's fun and it's immediate satisfaction when it comes to a creative experience. So I really was into it when I started it.
Yeah, I think you answered that perfectly. I mean, that is the truth. Nobody grows up saying, "I want to be a sound designer."
Now I think you're starting to see it more.
Right.
But I think there are kids that'll see that'll be like, "Oh, I want to be a sound designer," and it's like, "Wait, do you not do music?" And they're like, "Oh no, I don't do any music," and it surprises me. But it's cool to see that it's becoming more of a known thing, I guess. So yeah, it's interesting for sure though.
That's so funny you say that because I remember the first job I got was a teaching gig at a place called Expression. Actually, that wasn't my first teaching gig. That was my third. But I get in there and the former faculty member and I are just sitting there chatting. He's like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, one of my favorite things to do is record sounds and layer them together and then process them a whole bunch of different ways until I get a cool sound." And he's like, "So you're a sound designer?" I'm like, "Oh, is that what that's called?"
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, I think I was 25 and I still didn't even know what a sound designer was.
Oh, that's so funny. Wow. So
Whatever.
you were actually doing that?
Yeah, I started out as a clarinetist and then realized that wasn't going to get me anywhere. And then I got into electronic music and interactive audio was my big thing,
Cool.
using Macs and video cameras to track dancers' motion. And
Oh,
that's what
wow.
would create the sound or process the sound. So that
Oh,
was
very
my
cool.
first love. And then kind of veered off into this commercial world of recording and mixing. So it's been a
Very
fun
cool.
life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your first year outside of Full Sail? What did that look like for you?
So I was pretty slow on the beat, I would say, after I graduated. Well, actually, no. So before I started Blip Sounds, I started Blip Sounds in 2016. I started creating it, I guess. The brainchild for it started in 2016, and then I spent a year making it. And then after a year, it just came out, and some people liked it, and I've just been growing it since then. But in 2014, when I graduated, I was actually I put too much on my plate, and I decided to do a music album. I knew video games is where I wanted to go. That was for sure. And I thought for sure as well I would want to do music for video games. But then somewhere before I graduated, I realized that there was kind of a hole in the industry for sound design, that there weren't just many sound designers really doing sound design for games, and music for games is just so competitive, and it still is. So I was like, okay, maybe I can break into the industry doing sound design for games. And I took at the time it was Tom Todia and Thomas Owens class, and I think Thomas is in the call here listening.
Yeah, he is.
And hey, Thomas, what's up? And he and I took their
Hey,
class,
Ryan.
and hey, what's up, Thomas? And their class was awesome, and that inspired me. But I guess my first year out of Full Sail was basically me just working on projects to myself. I wasn't really getting any jobs or anything. So I decided to just make cool things and put it out into the world. And that was in the form of making asset packs on the Unity asset store and the Unreal marketplace. And yeah, I just put out sounds and music packs for basically a year, trying to put like one thing out every month, something like that, of like 100 to 200 sounds, something like that. And then I put out like 3 albums. It was a productive like year, but it just like nothing really like that was like making me money or I guess it was progressing my career, but it was just like on a very like personal skill level, I guess. So yeah.
No, all of that is valuable because you
It
were
is for sure.
building towards where you are today, you know?
Right.
So even though the money wasn't flowing in maybe the way you wanted it to, it was still a really valuable experience.
For sure. For sure.
So
And I
did,
think,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Oh, I was just going to ask, did you charge for those packs on Unity?
I did. And I mean, they didn't make a lot of money. Like
Okay.
it was however much it was, but like, if I were to go back, I think I would have rather like, actually that's what started Blip Sounds, because like Blip Sounds started as a sound library, and I was like, this Unity asset store stuff is great, but like Unity is getting all the credit for it, and like they're the ones that are like benefiting the most from this, and I'm seeing like a little bit of money here and there. Like I'm not really building a brand. It was under some other name, not Blip Sounds, but so I started Blip Sounds, and Blip Sounds started as a sound library, and the sound library, yeah, I basically just put it out there, and it was a lot. It was immediately way better as a result of that. But yeah, I made a little bit of money for it. It still makes money. It's just like it's not enough for it to be sustainable,
Right, right,
really.
totally. So would you say people from just games are using your sound library, or do you have people in film and TV and commercials using it as well?
From the Unity and Unreal, I actually have no idea who uses them. People just bought them and use them
Right.
for whatever. I get emails every once in a while that'll be like, "Hey, I'm using these in this game. Just wanted to let you know," which is cool to see. But
Yeah, I
it's
wish more people would do that because you never know where it lands, right? And it would be
yeah,
nice if they someone gave you at least a little bit of credit or at least reached out to you and were like, "Hey, thanks for the sounds."
yeah. Actually, one of the albums that I put out, they were like I put out 3 video game themed albums in 2015, and I put out another album that was free, and I basically just said like, hey, if you're going to use any of this music, or actually there was like actually throughout college, throughout a Full Sail, I put out I think I put out a song every week for like a year, and I put all of them up for free under Creative Commons license. So, and the only thing I asked of everybody is just to let me know when the animation or game or whatever that used my music comes out. And then that was it turns out like that like there were probably 10 plus games that use my music as a result of that, which I think is huge. And I think that a lot of people really undervalue how, I mean, that's just 10 credits right there that I get to put on my resume right away, which is super valuable. And that's just taking like a day or two to make a song every week. So,
That is awesome. Good for you.
yeah.
So you didn't have an internship or anything like that?
So my only like internship I would say that I really had was, hmm, yeah, I mean, I actually, I did a lot of just free work in general. Starting out, I actually did like some level design and like uh, game design and some stuff for some mobile games in like 2015, 2016. And other than that, like I just like making stuff, so I just wanted to be involved in games to some degree. So I made music and I just did what I could to be involved, and I think it paid off just to like understand the workflow and pipeline of the game a little bit better. But
By
in terms
being
of
the designer as well, right?
yeah, I mean I got lucky with that stuff, but like my goal wasn't really to do music or sounds. I just genuinely enjoyed doing level design and such. Um, and somebody put out, there was like an offer or like a forum post like looking for a level designer, and I said I would like to try. And then I did a test, and they were like, "You're good enough," and and it worked out. So and that actually created like a really long lasting relationship with some with some people that I didn't expect to be like this big thing. Um, and but yeah, internship wise, like there's no like official internship.
Hmm.
Um, when I started working on Maneater, I would say that was my closest thing to an internship. Maybe it was paid, but um, I was like I was under experienced when I started working on Maneater, and Chris Latham, who is an instructor at Full Sail, he and Tom Todia as well. They both worked on it, and when Chris brought me on, I think he was aware of like how inexperienced I was, but like yeah, it was. I actually don't know. I just it's crazy how much luck there is, but I think that there's an element of like putting the odds in your favor as well in the grand scheme of all of this.
So you mentioned a forum. Is that something you can tell us the name of, or some forums that students
Oh
can join if they're interested in sound design for games?
yeah, I mean the first one is the Blip Sounds Discord server. We have a Discord server. Actually, I'll post that up now.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, um, the Blip Sounds Discord server is like weirdly one of the most friendly groups of people on combined on or it's just there are too many friendly people on the internet to like on like an online forum which shouldn't exist, but everybody yeah go say hi and introduce yourselves. Everybody there is so cool. We have a monthly sound design competition, and we also have like a field recording thing, a field recording like weekly challenge kind of deal, and and we have a free course on our website too that just like teaches sound design. Sounds like a great place to get started. But in terms of like wanting to do sounds for games, that forum that I worked on was that I got the work from was the Unity forums,
Oh, there
and
you go.
yeah, so I mean that was easy. I was really involved with the website Newgrounds back in the day. I don't know how active it is now, but that had a lot of cool opportunities come about every once in a while. Um, and I guess in terms of like, I'm guessing most of these people are wanting to probably find work in some industry, in some in the games industry or some sort of industry, right?
Hmm.
Most of the people listening, yeah. So um, I think that posting in forums and like responding to posts is a good way to do it. But I really do believe that everybody needs to just make one thing every single week or every single day, and just do that as long as you can, and keep on doing that. And don't break the chain. Just keep doing that. Put cool stuff out into the world, and that's going to serve as your portfolio over time.
Hmm.
And then after that, just make friends with people. Like try and make friends with people without any intention of of having a business relationship or getting money from them or getting some sort of gig from them or something like that. Just make friends. That is the first step in any relationship, because if anything business related or job related were to come up in the future, if that doesn't go through, you still have the friendship to fall back on in the end. And I think that's really missed by a lot of people. And I think, and it makes sense because people just want to, our lizard brains just just are just like, oh, give me work now. But it's not that simple, I think. And
That is
yeah,
really great advice. Super great advice. Yeah, definitely. And then you never know. Like,
yeah,
maybe in that moment in time they didn't have anything for you, but you keep doing work, you keep putting stuff out there.
yep,
They get to know you better, and then they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, why don't we hit up Brian for that?" And that may be a decade later, but
that's exactly right. Yeah, it's an investment. You know, you're
mhm.
just, and it's not like, and it's and it really isn't. You shouldn't like, and you should have high standards and be like work with people that you're friends with and people that you want to work with too. If there's somebody that is in a high position but they're a bad person, or you don't like hanging out with them, or you don't vibe with them, I mean, it probably won't work out, and like you probably don't want to work with them anyways. So like finding people that you can stand to work with and like people that you want to be around, I think is really important when you're trying to find work in the industry, or being friends before you find work in the industry.
Yeah, I've looked at every time I haven't gotten a job that I applied to as a blessing in disguise because I'm like, obviously, if you get the interview, you have the skill set to do that
Right.
job. But the interview process is to see how you're going to work with that team, right? And so I'm like, okay, they don't like me, probably means I wouldn't like working with them either. If you're going
Yeah.
to do this 60, 80 hours a week, you want to like the people you're around.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I think, and that comes down to like just people skills and just being a good person. That's
Mhm.
surprisingly such a huge factor of it. I would say that like relationship and business building, or not business building, relationship skills and like people skills is like 50% of what I do on
Yeah.
a like regularly. Just talking to people and um, making friends, really.
That's so good. I'm so glad you said that because, we can teach them techniques till they're blue in the face, but
Yeah.
if they don't have that personal side to it, which is so hard to teach, so you're right. It is 50-50, if not more than that.
Yeah, completely agreed. I mean, there comes a point too where like you can work on your craft a lot, and you should keep on working on your craft every week. But there comes a point where you keep on working on it with diminishing returns, and like you can get so good at something that you don't even really. You can get so good at something that like it takes you so little time to actually create something that it kind of just isn't really worth your time to be practicing, because like when you work on something or when you find the gig or something, that's when it becomes practice. And that's not to say you shouldn't stop, but like doing one thing every week and then just spending the rest of your time like making friends somehow is very important, I feel.
Hmm. So when you are approaching creating a new sound or a new sound library, what is some of the process you go through? Do you do a lot of pre-production and kind of map out where you're going to go? Are you doing field recording? Are you taking from things you already have and mashing those together? What's your process there when you're first starting?
um I just try and get something on the canvas, really. So my DAW that I use is Reaper.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that most people here probably use Pro Tools or Logic,
Hmm.
um, but do they still do any Logic
Yep.
courses here
Yep.
and
We
recording arts?
still
Okay,
do Logic and Pro
okay, cool.
Tools.
Okay, is Reaper's not taught at all, is it?
No,
Gotcha,
unfortunately.
gotcha. Well, whatever DAW it is, just get something on there, and um, I guess usually I have some sort of video to tie things to,
Mm.
just some sort of visual representation. I'll plop the video inside of the DAW, and then I'll just put something in there. Usually it's white noise is what I usually start with. And I'll just put some form of white noise, and then I'll shape the envelope to have like, if you know the ADSR of like your synthesizers, you'll basically shape the ADSR, or the envelope as it's called. Um, sorry, I'm dumbing things down. It's just I don't know
No,
the skill level of everyone,
yeah, and we
but
do have
yeah.
some people who are in film, so they probably have
Oh, okay.
no idea what an ADSR is. So,
So yeah, so an envelope of the sound, for those that don't know, is basically just like, it stands for attack, decay, uh, sustained, release, and that basically implies the volume of a sound effect over time. So if we have something like a punch sound effect, the punch itself is going to have a very fast attack with a relatively slow release, while something like an airplane flying by might have a very slow attack and a slow release. So it's kind of just like the way that the volume fades in and fades out over time. So usually I'll just make sure that the envelopes are in place for the sounds that I create, and I'll shape that with white noise, and then I'll shape the white noise based off of. Then I'll shape the white noise with an EQ to get like low end or high end out of it, or a pitch shifter or something like that. And then I'll do volume adjustments. And then like once I get like the story of the sound being told through white noise, I'll usually add a little bit more personality through the sound of my own source recordings. And my approach to choosing my source recordings is a process that I call thematic sound design. And thematic sound design is basically the idea of choosing a theme from the video or whatever it is that you're making a sound for, and using elements that you see from the film to influence your sound design decisions. So you might have something like there was I did a panel where I recreated Greninja's water shuriken from Pokemon. It was just a video, and basically it's made of water. It's a shuriken, so I'm going to use water and metal as my source recordings for that. Or it could be like an earthquake. You're going to go outside and you're going to record dirt and rocks and those kind of things. And or it could be even deeper. There's a sound designer named Akash Thakar. He worked on a game called Hyperlight Drifter, and the studio that made it is called Heart Machine. And I think it's called Heart Machine. Apologies if that's not right, but the lead or the owner of the company or the studio, the owner of the company actually has a heart problem, and he then that's why the company is named that. So Akash Thakar recorded some of the sounds using the stethoscope and
Nice.
modded it into a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. That is brilliant thematic sound design, because it just like ties directly to the core of what the team is. So I mean, that thematic sound design is something you can kind of just make it into whatever you want. I'm going off a tangent here, but
No, you're doing perfect. Keep going.
But the whole idea of just, I think that you have to create limitations for yourself to it's really important to just create limitations for yourself and rules, and sort of have these theory crafting to design your sounds around. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit about what sound design actually is. I think sound design can mean different things to different people,
Yeah.
especially like if someone's a synth programmer or into software instruments.
Yeah, it's
Is
kind
that
of vague.
sound design
It
or
is. It is. I would, yeah, because I mean, if you're an electronic music producer, then you sitting with analog synths and like creating a synth with Serum or Massive or whatever synthesizer you use, that's also called sound design. And the game development sphere, sound design to me is the art of designing a sound effect or designing recorded samples or audio in your GAW. Some people might call like, and then people say that like recording sounds is also sound design. I consider that to be more Foley, and that's like the kind of distinction that I make. So like, there's a Foley process and a sound design process, but I mean, sound design is really broad, but I think it just depends on what industry you're in, really, and like what group of people you're talking to.
Yeah, because I think Thomas did a panel like a month ago, and that was one of the funny things where like Mark Kilborn was saying, like, we get all these applicants for sound design and they're creating synth sounds. And he's like, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for someone who can take all these different tracks of recorded information and blend them together to create a new sound. So just make sure when you guys are out there applying for things that you really understand what it is they're asking, because in Mark's point of view, they were wasting their time by applying to that job, because that's not what they were looking for.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it like won't hurt you to like apply, but like that does go to great lengths to do a lot of research on the job that you're applying for. Like go as far as like understand like who works at the company, like who's the CEO of the company, or like even like what your expectations of the job are, and like what kind of work they might do, or like watch some videos on their process for creating the sounds, or their creative process, or anything that you can learn about the company, the better, before you apply, and that just looks better for you long term.
So have you branched out to film, or do you mainly just want to work in games? That's where your passion is.
I love games. That's where I belong. But every once in, like, even just in the last few weeks, people have been contacting me to do film stuff, just here and there, just to do some sounds. I don't enjoy it as much. It's still fun though. but yeah, I do some film stuff here and there.
Okay, cool. Because yeah, there is kind of like a crossover there when you're
Oh,
a
for
sound
sure.
designer. You don't have to just float in one lane. You can kind of cross over to different
Absolutely.
lanes. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Um,
think I think the biggest difference is just that for sound design for games, it really helps to learn some programming, so that and like
mhm,
some the game design side of things, linear versus interactive, really
mhm.
is the difference.
So, do you do any audio implementation, or are you just designing the sounds and then you hand that off to somebody and they implement the sounds?
I pride myself on being able to program the sounds into the game myself,
Wow.
and um, I think that's really important because it just makes things easier for the entire game development team. If I tell a if I tell I mean I'm a contractor, so it's different than like working for a AAA company or a studio. But if a AAA company wanted me for my sound design, I probably would only be doing sound design. I probably wouldn't be doing as much audio programming. But
Hmm.
if I'm a contractor like I am now, then being able to do the sound design and then integrating it myself makes me far more valuable. Um,
Definitely.
and the big reason is that game developers don't want to deal with sound, and there's so many more important things for them to worry about than sound. And if you can tell them that you know how to program the sounds into the game yourself, then you're looking pretty good
Great.
to like get that gig.
So we don't really teach much programming at Full Sail. So how did you get into that?
Oh, you just have to do it. It sucks. It's like the worst answer, but well, they. I think that at least the class that I did with an advanced interactive audio, they we did some stuff in Unreal Engine, like integrating sounds and such,
Right, right.
and we did a little bit of blueprint work and Unreal, but yeah, I mean, most of it that was. I unfortunately, by the time, sorry Thomas, by the time I left Full Sail, I had forgotten all of it. That wasn't because of the teachers; that was just my own negligence. But so I had to relearn it, and honestly, I just had to I just had to learn it,
Right.
and honestly, just like throwing myself into the fire or into the deep end with it, and just saying I'm going to try and do this, and taking on gigs and telling them that I could do it when I couldn't,
Yeah,
kind of forced me to do it. So
that's the way to do it. It's
it,
like,
it
well, I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure I can figure it out. So let me
right.
say yes.
My approach is definitely just like I'm I can figure anything out if I really want to. Somebody posted that they're learning Wise.
Yeah.
Really
That's
awesome.
That's what
Yeah.
they're teaching is
Okay.
Wise in
Okay.
sound design
Cool.
for games, and then Thomas teaches the portfolio for that for game
Oh,
audio.
cool. Okay.
So
Nice.
they are using Wise, and then I believe they're using Unreal and Unity. They've got different games that it's
Okay.
tying into.
Awesome.
But
Yeah. I think Wise is a huge part of it for sure.
do you ever work
Um,
with Fmod? Just curious.
yeah. Yeah. It flip flops game to game. I don't really I prefer Wise over FMod, but
Hmm.
honestly, like it's a coin flip for whether I care or not. Like it really doesn't bother me one way or another. They both it's or half a dozen in one hand, six in the other.
Right.
So um, yeah. So my recommendation for anybody learning Wise is to learn like the game engine too. Learn some Unity with Wise and learn some Unreal with Wise, because I think that we're heading in a direction where, and I know that's a whole extra thing to learn, which is super frustrating, but Wise becomes exponentially more complicated once you add a game engine to it,
Hmm.
and that and if you learn okay, if you learn how to do not just there's two types of audio programming. There's, to me anyways, there's you can do C# in Unity, or you can do the blueprints in Unreal, which are both cool and those are great, and those are valuable, and that's the kind of like hands off, uh, the kind of like ease that you're giving to game developers when you're working with them, and that I like pride myself on, and like that's great. But then there's another level where you actually learn to do like it's called low level programming, where you're basically like designing or programming in the engine. If you can do, and that's like learning C++ and Unreal. If you can learn C++ and Unreal with, and like learn how to like do all that kind of crazy stuff, you are a unicorn in the game audio industry, and you will be able to get a job. You're not guaranteed a job anywhere you go, but like you're going to be one of the very few, and you're going to have to be like extremely competitive over other sound designers that are applying for the same positions.
Well, I know Unity better than I know Unreal, but I know in
Hmm.
Unity, like you can even do JavaScript, you can do C Sharp, you can do C++. So
Yeah,
it,
you,
you know, if you have a different syntax language under your belt,
it
you're
always
not
helps.
just limited to C++, you know. Is it like that in Unreal, or can you only
Uh,
use one coding language in there?
as far as I know, in Unreal, there's Blueprint, which is like their equivalent of C Sharp to Unity,
Okay.
which is, or yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, you can do C Sharp in Unity, but and or Blueprints in Unreal. I mean, and then there's C++, which is a little bit more complicated and more like designing the engine side of things. Like
Mm,
that's where things get a little bit more complicated, and like you're dealing with potentially breaking the game and your computer and all that kind of stuff. And like, I mean, it's not that like cutthroat, but like it borders that line a little bit, as far as I know. I'm really actually not that familiar with the C++ side of things. I'm really itching to learn it though.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Well, that just helps with like tying in the sound to the physics of the character, right? So it really helps if you have some of that. If
Yeah,
the higher they jump or the lower they jump, there's a different sound that's going to be triggered. And
yeah. On the C++, I would say that like you would also be fine not learning the C++ stuff for a while. Like I
mm-hmm.
don't, just to give that advice to everybody, like learn blueprints before you learn C++.
Great
Um,
advice. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't want to overcomplicate anything for anybody listening to this. But I mean, but I'm just saying that like, if in the future you want to, you could make a lot more money, and you could do, you could be like, you would be in the, you would have a definite in into the industry to some degree, learning C++. And I know that there are some, I actually don't really know much about C++, or like learning like that, like it's called low level programming, like that C++, and it's a low level language. And if you learn those low level languages for audio programming and games, I know that there's a lot of positions right now that are out, like Gearbox is one of them, for example, that like they do a lot of C++ for like audio programming or as a technical sound designer, and that stuff is not easy. And but hey,
So if you,
it's an alternative. It's a route, anyways, to take.
yeah, so if you see the term technical sound designer, that's going to mean you need more of the programming chops in order to do
Yeah,
that. Is
yeah, I
okay.
think so. I think it depends on like, it depends on who you ask too. Like the
Mm-hmm.
definition is so broad. There's a technical sound designer named Adam Croft who works at Bungie, and he actually has a really cool blog and website that you guys should check out if you're interested in game audio as well.
What was his
But
name again?
Adam Croft, Croft.
Okay.
I think he's at Bungie right now, and he talked to me, and he was saying that his job is the middleman between the game developers and the sound designers, and he just like communicates everything to between each other, and that's his job, and he's considered a technical sound designer. But if you go to Gearbox might say, okay, you're actually going to be programming with C++, and you're going to be building some audio system stuff in C++, or that might be the case at Riot Games, or I'm actually not entirely. I would have to. I'm learning more about it as time goes on. So I'm not like super. I'm
No,
not the
no,
best
that
person to ask about it, but
yeah, no, but that makes a great distinction though, because I think students might apply for a job and not realize what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, I mean, a technical sound designer might even just be understanding whys. Like, it just depends on what company is putting out there. I wish that things were a little bit more specific on, or like things were more streamlined, but they're like music genres, really. It's
Right.
like, like, what is alternative? Oh, it's like anything with guitars. Okay. Pretty
That
much
is
what it is.
amazing. So you are contracting out your business to these other game developers, right? So do you have to bid for these? Are you like in competition with other companies,
Yeah.
or how does that work? So do you like get a sheet together of like how much everything's going to cost? Do you do like a 10% overage just in case? How does
Yeah.
that look?
That is a lifetime conversation.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll give my approach is to basically, after I'm friends with them, of course, usually that's the case at least. Um, we'll get to talking about. Actually, no, I was gonna say I was gonna like give like a really formal answer and like say that like I usually like do like a write up or something for them, but most of the time it's actually pretty casual. Now that I
Okay.
think about it, it's usually just like, here's my rate, and this is my day rate. This is what I charge on a monthly basis. This is what I charge hourly. And if you're interested, just let me know, kind of deal. And it really can be that casual. However, as a contractor, it just depends on the size of the project, really,
Mm-hmm.
and who's hiring. If it's like an indie studio, they usually like to know exactly what they're going to be paying, just because they don't have as much money. But
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking about like a little bit of bigger studio, then like you can tell them like I expect to work on this for 80 hours a month, and I charge this much per month, and I charge this much per hour. And when you're charging that much, and then they understand exactly what they're going to be paying each month through the end of development. And they're usually a bigger team that's okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there'll be some projects where it's like, okay, you need 100 sounds and you need this much music. I'll charge you just a flat rate of this much throughout the entire development cycle, or for all of these sounds. And if there's anything extra that's not on this list of sounds, then we'll create a separate agreement for it.
Yeah, because that's the big thing, right? Like you'll agree to maybe say 100 sounds
Right.
and you'll create those sounds. And then half the time, the people can't really communicate what they really wanted in the first place. And you create something, they're like, no, 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 that's not what we wanted at all. And you have to start all over again.
Right.
So is that included in your rate, or do you just kind of hope for the best and go with
I, I usually just go high, and then I just take the loss usually.
I got you.
Yeah. So it's like I usually try and go for about like 50% above what I charge. So like
Mm-hmm.
if I tell somebody, if I think that it's actually going to be worth like $1,000, I'll usually say it's going to cost 1,500, just to just to give myself some breathing room.
Yeah, definitely,
Really.
because I think that can be one of the things you're not ready for when you first get started is how many changes there are, and then we
Yeah.
decided we're not gonna have that area of the game
Es-
anymore.
especially when there's like audio programming
Mm-hmm.
involved, where there's no way to predict how much time solving a problem is going to be. And
Oh
an
yes,
audio programmer, or not an audio programmer, every programmer is terrible at programming. They just know how to solve problems really
that's
well.
it.
Yeah, it's true. And if you know how to Google things and you know how to find your answers, you're going to be an excellent programmer. And
And trial and error. You're like, okay,
trial and
let me
error
try
for
this.
sure.
Oh, that didn't work.
Yep.
Okay, let me try
And
this.
every single project that I work on is a new set of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, like I don't really know. Like I could be spending 8 hours on something when I think it's going to take two, because it's something that I might not understand.
Right.
Um, so I just make sure to take care of myself. Really, I
Yeah, you
try and
got to. You've
yeah,
got to.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think the one thing you can relate to those of you who are in in music, it's like if you do a mix for a client and they're like, well, we want the bass louder, we want the guitar quieter in the chorus, we want this background vocal up. Okay, so you make those adjustments, give them the second revision. Then they want another revision and another revision. And,
Yeah.
like when I first started out, I didn't realize that was happening. And I think I did 18 revisions once. And I charged like 500 flat rate for the whole project. So I wound up like making 2 cents an hour off that project,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things like you just kind of got to go through it and learn the hard way and then
Yeah.
protect yourself later.
Yeah. The way that I like this is still happening on a day-to-day basis, but I have a contract that I had a friend write up for me, and I basically use that for all my gigs. But every single time that I do a game, something gets overlooked, and I forget about it. But then as soon as that happens, I add it to the contract, and I'm good for the next time. And it sucks because you want to be like you want to cover yourself as best as you can, but you're not always going to do that. That's
Right.
just the way it goes. So if you just just cut your losses sometimes and just move on to the next thing. That's just how it goes sometimes. Send your contracts to your friends and get their feedback if they're friendly enough to read through a contract for you. And yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So do you get paid any money up front, or do you wait until the project's done? How do you collect payment?
I either go weekly or monthly based off how much work I put in. So like if I tell them that it's going to cost a certain amount, I usually just scale it by how much work I get done. If I have 100 sounds and it's going to take me 3 months to do, so that's like roughly 33 sounds per month, then I'm going to tell them it's going to cost, or I'll probably charge them like, or let's say it's $1,000 as well for that. Then I'm going to charge them 1,000, or I guess I'll charge them $300 per month or something like that. If that like sorry, 1,500 because it's a little bit higher. But
Right.
So $500 per month, and then I'll
Nice.
like split that up into weekly amounts, if you will.
Oh, that's so smart. Do people ever
Fight me on it?
fight you, or like have you not gotten paid when you were in a contract?
That's why weekly is my go-to. It depends on my comfortability with them. If I trust them, I'm okay with like not getting a payment right away because I know that they'll pay me. But if it's somebody that I've never met in person before, I almost always request weekly, just because like I put in a week of work, pay me for this week before I move on to the next bit of work that I have to do. So
yeah, and that again goes back to those relationships and building trust, right?
Yep.
So if you work with somebody and you know they're going to pay you, you don't really have to be so worried about that.
For sure.
So I know this is going to be so cheesy, but can you tell us like one of your favorite sounds you've ever designed?
Yeah. No, it has to, every speaking thing has to ask it. So honestly, I love making creature sounds. They're just so satisfying to make.
So
I don't know
are you getting like an image of what that's going to look like, or are they giving you a written description, or is
there's
it
usually an animation.
It's already animated for you at that point. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, man, I don't know if I have a favorite. There are some sounds that I've made. It's kind of hard to like be attached to sounds as much when at most they take me like an hour to make per sound.
Well, just give us an example of one.
Well, I'll actually share a YouTube video that Blip Sound. We have a YouTube channel with Blip Sounds.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we actually have like a lot of educational stuff for people to learn from. But, man, yeah, I guess this one. I decided. No, I'm actually just going to share a link to the video for people to watch later if they want to. If anybody wants to see this.
Cool.
Yeah. It's basically I just recreated the sound from the new Final Fantasy remake just to like show people my process. And that was I don't know how to describe. It's kind of like I guess it's like more personal why I like that one. That sound took me 1 hour to make, which is like ridiculously fast for like how complicated the sound is. But that was one of the first sounds that I made, or it wasn't one of the first sounds I made that was like this, but I'm sure that everyone here has heard some form of the expression of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That was an example of the sound with every single layer. If you play every single layer of this sound, they kind of sound bad. Like it doesn't really sound that interesting or great. But as soon as you hear the whole sound together, it just feels it's exponentially like elevated, which I think is pretty cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's hard to have a favorite sound. You make so many of them.
That's why I knew I was getting myself in trouble before I even asked that.
No, you're good. It's a good sound. It's a good question to ask.
All right. So it looks like in the chat, everybody's just been loving everything you say and good lessons and great info. And so thank you for that.
Sure thing.
So I'm going to open it up to you guys. If you want, you can unmute your mic and ask a question, or you can type in the chat. So either way you want to go about that.
Ask away.
I just unmuted everybody. That's scary.
Warning, you are unmuted. What's my favorite game?
Ooh.
Favorite sounding game or favorite game to play? Favorite sounding game is Overwatch. Overwatch has the best sound, has the best sound design of almost any game I've heard, just because of how they purposely designed the mix of that game. It's just brilliant. My favorite game, I have two favorite games. I'm a huge fan of retro games. Yoshi's Island is actually one of my favorite games. I love that game so much. It was made in 1995, and it's so beautiful and so much depth to it. But my favorite game, to modern standards, is probably Breath of the Wild, the latest Zelda game.
Awesome.
Yeah, and favorite game I've worked on, King of the Hat for sure. It's probably the best hat-based game out there. Because that's not really saying much, but actually no, Mario Odyssey is the thing. So yeah, but anyways, yeah.
I love it.
That's how they sold the game. They were like, yeah, it's an incredibly hat-based game, and the game did pretty well. So
sorry, my dog thought that was funny.
Oh,
Hats off to you.
Thank you.
Bad pun.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Pace has a question. Go for it, man.
Yes, you said that one of your favorite games was Overwatch, correct?
Yeah.
Favorite sounding games.
Favorite sounding games. Shouldn't it be Overwatch 2 then, for that matter?
It hasn't come out yet, has it?
I'm not sure, but he says Overwatch. I'm like, wait, should be Overwatch 2 then. If that's
True. Yeah, I guess it's over. I haven't played Overwatch 2 though, to be fair. I've only played Overwatch 1. If it is out, anyways. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it does sound way better too. I imagine it might sound similar or the same. Hard to say.
And then eventually it'll probably be Overwatch 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's hope so, right? Keep taking that money.
Absolutely.
Willis asks, how often do you find inspiration for sounds outside? And when you do, what is your go-to equipment to record?
Actually, it's right here.
I forgot to ask that. Great question, Willis.
Give me a second. I've had this Zoom H6 for 6 years. That's all I use. I literally use it for everything. Every single sound I've ever done. Unless it's for vocals or which I use. I can't bring it all the way down here, but I have an AT2035 and a Blue Spark microphone.
Nice.
But yeah, this is I literally use this for everything. And it's so versatile. It works as an audio interface as well. So I just recorded some music yesterday using it. And it just plugs right into your computer. So it's great.
And the Zoom products, they sound amazing. They're user friendly and they're affordable.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, the Zoom H8 just got announced, and I think it might
Oh
be
yeah.
out now.
Yeah, it is out.
It's like only $400 or $500, right, for that whole thing?
Yeah, and it's like a little octagon. It looks
Yeah,
so
yeah.
weird.
Yeah, doesn't look great, but like everyone's gonna buy it.
8 inputs. Yeah,
Yeah,
why
yeah,
not?
exactly.
Have you ever gotten into sound devices stuff? I know they're a little pricier, but
No, I haven't. I'm actually like I am such a I'm such a vanilla sound designer. I use I buy things once and then I use them forever, pretty much until I need an upgrade. And I used all of the free base plugins for Reaper for like 3 years, and yeah, I haven't used much sound devices stuff that I answer your question now.
yeah, it's super expensive.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, the quality is a little bit better. The A to D
Okay,
converter is a little bit better than Zoom's products,
okay.
but we're talking like what cost in the Zoom land $500 is going to cost you closer to 2,000 in the
Oh
sound device
wow.
land. Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's a big
it's
difference.
really kind of high end, very expensive
Sure.
stuff. Let's see. We got another question from Hector. What are wait, what would you
Well,
consider entry level jobs to look for after graduation that can help you gain experience to apply for a more sound design related job later? Like maybe dialogue editing?
yeah, I think hmm, that's tough. Are you talking about for games specifically, or do you mean just anything
Yeah.
sound design?
Hector, can you clarify that? Do you mean games only or?
Well, if you're doing, I think that I think that everyone should do like some work for free up front. I think that's a complicated subject.
Yeah.
Um, but I there was a sound designer who I think was a Full Sail grad named Ryan C.
Yeah, I'm going to
Um,
talk to him on August 28th.
okay, well, tell him that I said hi,
Okay, I
and
will.
he probably doesn't remember me, but he came to Full Sail when I was uh, a student, and uh, he he said he worked on 10 games for free, and then he got hired at EA shortly after.
Wow.
So like I think there was more to it than that. He was also doing like music, and he also like started his own like personal sound library kind of thing. And yeah, he's broken into the industry now.
Yeah.
And I think that like I think that too many people are trying to like just get into like a AAA company right away. And I think that probably working on just some small indie stuff is a great way to get started. And I wish that I still wish that I was doing stuff for free sometimes. Like I think it's a great way to just like it's a great way to first off start working with some game developers, and you never know when like for if you're a contractor, at least like myself, 3 years ago if I did a game for free, those game developers might be working on a professional project with funding or something like that, or they might know somebody that they want to refer me to. You just never know. So get your foot in the door however you can. If you have to do stuff for free, that's fine. Just make sure you value your work and your mental health.
Exactly. Oh, that's so important. And that there is a lot of burnout that can happen, especially when you work for a AAA
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, crunch. There's a lot of companies that crunch, which is bad. But but some people love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it personally, but I'm just crazy. But I don't think it should be. I think I think there's a difference between my self-imposed crunch and then companies telling you that you have to crunch.
Yeah, that's a huge difference, right?
Because I run my own company, and I am mostly the only one doing it. I only put crunch on myself, really.
Right?
So,
Yeah, that is awesome. But yeah, like what he's talking about is like crunch time in games is probably right around now, right? Everybody's trying to get everything out soon
yeah,
for the
I think
holidays.
that's definitely part of it. I think that crunch time is also just when a game is about to be released. So
Yeah.
crunch time has probably gone on for certain games I won't name any of them, but
For 5
you know,
years
it just
now?
depends on the studio. Yeah, I know, right? I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, because I have a couple friends that, work for video game companies, and some of them actually went from video games to doing casino games.
Yeah,
And it's just like this time of year, they're like, yeah, Patrice, I'm working 90, 120 hours a week. I can't talk,
yeah,
and they do it. They get it done somehow.
crazy.
So Mr. Arnold asks, you mentioned that you were originally planning on going into music. What style and what instruments do you play? Oh, that's a good question.
I play piano, guitar, drums. I can play pretty much anything with keys.
Nice.
But I played. I actually wrote a lot of orchestral music. That was like kind of what I started with, using like MIDI samples and such. And I would up my DAW was Logic and Logic 9, and then that's that's the style that I composed, and I felt comfortable like doing a lot of different styles, but I just felt most like um, what's it called? I felt like I was able to express myself the best with orchestral music, I would say.
Yeah.
Mostly just video game music in general. I was always very attracted to. So yeah.
All right. Teddy would like to know, what studio monitors do you use? And do you have a recommendation for entry level monitors for someone getting into composing game music?
I think I have. Are they? I can't. They're in the other room. I think they're. Let me look it up. I think they're Yamaha L2s.
The L2 might be part of the JBL series.
Oh wait, you might be right. Actually, don't remember the name of them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, it's not. Yeah, I think it is these actually. Yeah. So I had the JBL.
Mm-hmm.
308p. I honestly though, like I don't think you need. I'm so anti-gear again. Not anti-gear, but just like I'm just a vanilla sound designer in general. I think I think you should use your headphones or like just something really basic to get started. My friend just got hired at Riot Games as a voice designer. He didn't buy his monitors until 6 months ago.
There you go.
He's been using $100 pair of headphones for the last 5 years.
Just know it inside out. That's really
Right.
all
If you just
need.
know your equipment, you're good. That's all you need.
And then when you get monitors, now you got to start thinking about, well, how does your room sound?
Right.
You could spend a ton of money on monitors, but if your room sounds like garbage, you're going to have a lot of frequencies cancellation and maybe frequency boosting. So it
Right.
might be better when you're first starting to just invest in a good pair of headphones.
Definitely.
I know that in-ears are coming along quite nicely, and a lot of people like using those. The high end of that, you could spend like $1,500, which
Does Full Sail still give the HD 280 Sennheisers?
Yep, we do.
Right
There
here.
they are.
I still use them. Yeah.
That's great. I love it. Let's see. Yeah, thoughts for mixing on headphones. I think we just kind of touched on that.
I mean, I think mixing on headphones is just cross-reference on as many speakers as you can. Really, I reference on like a crappy laptop speakers for like just to listen to, because it was actually a game that I put out recently that a lot of people had audio issues on, because I think that they sounded really bad on laptop speakers, and it was mostly like kids that were playing the game that didn't have like super great high quality sound systems and such. So yeah, it was very funny. Yeah, I know. Crazy.
And there's no low end. How do you like this sound?
Right. Exactly.
So you mentioned that when you're doing sounds, you're also sometimes giving them some music beds, right? So when you're how do you work with that? Do you create the sounds first and then make sure the music kind of fits in tonally with the sounds, or do you
Um,
work one way or the other?
no, there's no rules, I would say.
Okay,
The only thing that I usually just tell myself like certain frequency ranges to avoid in the music.
gotcha.
And that's basically it though. It's and I usually like to reserve the high end for for sound effects, and like, yeah, that's mostly it. But otherwise you can do like dynamic ducking for the music and the
Hmm.
sounds if you need something to pop out or anything like that.
Very cool. Great. Thank you for that.
For sure.
Thomas asks, how has networking changed for you now that conventions have moved online and there are less in-person opportunities to connect with game
Oh,
developers?
that
Oh,
is
Thomas.
Thomas with the hard hitting real questions. No, that's a really good question.
It
And I'm
is.
glad that you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, so before COVID, my networking was I would travel to 12 different cities a year for the last 3 years, and that's what I needed to do to like just get to where I am now, which isn't even like the penultimate for me, at least. I'm still trying to grow. Um, Networking, I think I got really lucky for now, at least, because I made all my connections in the last 3 years, and I'm able to ride on those and like, hit up my friends and like, I have my group of friends. Hint, hint, make friends first. And I just hang out with them and talk to them every so often, and I just keep up with them and keep up with all my contacts. And with I guess like in terms of actual networking, that it's so hard. I mean, I basically just reach out to people now and just ask if they want to call. That's all I can really do at this point. It's way less effective, but like I'm still experimenting with it. I know that there's a way through it and a way to do it right, but I haven't quite figured it out yet. But soon I will have hopefully a better answer for like networking online. Just don't ask for a job right away. Just like if you're trying to make friends with an indie game developer or somebody like that, or a professional sound designer, just start by going on their Twitter or their Instagram or whatever public forum or whatever public social media that they are active on, and just comment on their stuff, be friendly, send them a message and just ask them a question or like pick their brain or like ask them, talk about something cool and be their friend. Um, that's like the best way to like network online. Don't don't never ever just like say, hey, I want to do sounds for your game. There are 100 other sound designers and music composers that are doing the same exact thing. You are not going to stand out if you do
Right.
that.
Hmm. So earlier you had mentioned about, people who are just specifically writing music for games. Um, in my experience, those were people who had been with the company 20, 30 years, like 40 years my senior. So it seemed like it was kind of an unachievable goal for me when I was
Hmm.
first starting out. Do you feel like it's still kind of that way, or is there more room for newer people to enter in?
For music,
Yeah,
music is for games, music is so competitive.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, songwriting in general is just
Yes.
super, super competitive. I I think there is still room. Um, I think that it's smarter to go freelance to start. Um, In-house, I don't see in-house being super relevant in the next 10 years personally.
Oh, that's
I
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that things are going to start going contract like in
Hmm.
the next 10 years and I know a lot of music composers that are just freelance because uh, one of my friends, Will Roger, he did the music for the newest Mortal Kombat. Um, he he's freelance, and he doesn't. If he only had Mortal Kombat and was only hired by Mortal Kombat, that's first off just like a huge cost for the team that makes Mortal Kombat. And secondly, like he wouldn't be working on much stuff outside of that. The company has to be really big and has to be working on a lot of stuff to have an in-house composer.
Right.
And I think that an in-house composer will still be a thing. I just think that the majority of music composers are going to be found not out of house or as a freelancer, really.
Yeah. That's
still
great.
super competitive though.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing the companies need to look at too, is it's much easier to hire somebody in a contract than it is to hire someone full time with a salary and maybe some stock options and healthcare and a retirement plan. Like that costs companies a lot of money. Oh, and not to mention like workman's comp insurance, it gets really, really pricey. So I totally see that becoming more of a contract position. And then, of course, as a freelancer, then it's up to you to make sure you have health care and you're paying into Medicaid and Social Security and try to figure out, can I start saving for 401k,
Yeah.
So there's different things that come with the contract world. You definitely get maybe more opportunities and more time to work on different things. But when you're, locked into a company, then it's only for those games they make, and that could be kind of limiting.
Right, for sure.
Thomas is saying, thanks for the info. And Game Sound Con is only $25 this year. There are some advantages for events that were previously very expensive to attend. Well, that's really cool.
Interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
Bye, Austin. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for joining. Actually, GDC was this week or last week. And I had a ticket, but I didn't go, or I didn't attend it. I don't know how that went really.
Was that virtual?
Well. It was virtual. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, $25 though, that's easy. Game Sound Con is great too. I hope they do a good job with it.
When is that, Thomas?
I think it's in October.
Okay.
That's where when it usually is. Okay.
October 5th, possibly. Okay. Yeah. So we'll keep our eyes out for that. So let's say you're at a point in your career where you can start hiring people, or maybe you already have. What are you looking for when you hire somebody?
I'm looking for them to be my friend. And on a skill level, I need somebody that I don't have to hold their hand through. And I need somebody that knows how to program and can do full scope audio without my help.
Wow.
Or a game. Yeah. So being able to record, not necessarily record, just because, I think you should learn how to do it, but if you just use libraries, that's fine, as long as it makes a good sound in the end. Recording or creating the sound, integrating it with Wise, and having knowledge of Unreal and Unity. That's what I'm looking for.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that.
For sure.
All right. Well, we are a little over time. Thank you so much for hanging with us a little bit longer.
Oh, sure. Happy to help.
Kari has posted the survey link, so you guys can let me copy paste that again, so you guys have that. Here, I just posted it again, and the name is Recent Grad Spotlight with Ryan Stunkel. Okay. Recent Rad Spotlight. Jesus.
I kind of like that, honestly.
Dude, I think I'm going to change the name. Well, it was such a pleasure having you, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Sure, yeah, let me know. I'll be happy to hop on.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrice. Yeah, everyone, join. I'll post the Discord link one more time, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Come say hi. come hang out. We do a call every once in a while, and there are just people that hang out and like just help each other out with sound design and such. If you ever want to learn any sound design or want to just have a place to make sounds with other people or anything like that, just hop on that server, say hi, introduce yourself. Everyone is super cool and chill. So
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, some people are saying, "Oh, well, I'm in film, but I plan to dabble in it
it's
anyway,"
good.
and that's
Cool.
great. Yeah, I don't know. The more people you know, the more opportunities you're going to have.
For sure. For
So,
sure.
thank you for creating such a great community. I can't wait to join.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
All
But
right.
yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you again so much, Ryan. Have a great night.
Awesome. See you guys.